And so they get the official orientation. Then they go out into the workplace and they meet a veteran team member. And then somehow the conversation comes up of, all right, so what's it really like to work here?
Clear thinking, cogently discussed. If that's what you're looking for, you may have come to the wrong spot. It doesn't take a genius.
Ramsey!
Marshall, great to see you again after our Vision episode.
Oh, yes. The North Star.
The North Star.
The budding artists out there. We've seen some remarkable vision drawings.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my favorites was it was the business, and there was a line of armored cars picking up the money, driving it to the bank.
We are really doing well.
I'm like, that looks very successful.
So this will seem like a tangent, but every time I think about armored cars or somebody brings them up in conversation, all I can think about, and I know we've talked about it, is the video of the South African armored vehicle with two dudes driving it, and they suddenly get attacked. And it's a video of the driver's seat and the passenger's seat, and they're literally getting like an armed robbery happening to them. People shooting at them. They're going off road, steering this truck all over the place. I mean, the dude driving looks like just the coolest, baddest cat out there. You know the reason I bring that up?
No.
You can't escape a vision. They're so powerful, you can't get them out of your head, right? And so that's a little bit why we did that episode, is visions are just that powerful.
Oh, yeah.
We have something else today that's powerful.
Yeah, it should stick with you. It should it help, it should portray your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations, and do so in a visual format. So that was a lot of fun. We've seen so many great drawings over the years, and people hanging on to them for years and sharing them with their teams, and even getting their teams to participate.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with giving all your team some colored pencils and blank paper and say, all right, draw, what success looks like for us a year from now. What would we be doing? What would our customers be doing? What would they be feeling? What might it look like? And then you get to compare visions. Are we aligned? Are we on the same page, or do we see, a year from now completely differently? And that lack of alignment could hinder us from getting to where we want to go.
So I'm glad you said it the way you just did, because you used a couple words that are key. First off, we're in the middle of a series about a culture of continuous improvement. How do you get that going? Vision is one of those tools, and it is, as you said, an aspiration. It's an aspiration for an individual or for a team. Either way, it is something where it's our North Star. We're going toward it, as Seth Godin has taught us. And so today we're going to talk about something that's not aspirational. It's not in the future. It's right now, deep in us as a team or an individual. What's in my DNA? What are the things that are really what make me up? And we're going to call that values. So we want to share some exercises, some questions that you and I have asked that can help people drive to that.
And you can hear the collective eye roll.
Yep.
Yeah, from the audience, both of them. The idea that values, we're gonna create a list of words. I pretty much can guess what they're gonna be. Integrity, friendly.
I'm so glad you said that, Mike, because I didn't show you this slide, but I have some slides. Let me put this on the screen here, because that's exactly what I don't want to have happen.
Exactly. Yeah. And we know we've all experienced the cognitive dissonance between the stated values and the behaviors. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Right. Seth Godin calls them fiblets. Right.
Yep.
When you're on the phone and you're on hold, you've been on hold for 2 hours, and the little recording goes, "Your call's important to us." And you're like, no, it's not. If that's a value you have, which is to make people feel important and cared for via your call system, that left me an hour ago while I was still on hold. Yeah.
Well, and it's not the motivational posters that you see with, the bald eagle flying and it says resilience in big letters, And so I put up a slide here, and you maybe have seen this. But when I say values, I'm not talking about integrity, right? Integrity is a given. Like, you're supposed to have integrity as a human being. That's not a value that is something important just to you. So there's a story about this from England. Allegedly, this is an alleged story. There was a German diplomat to England, and King Edward the Seventh was going to be having a party. I can't, the details on this one shift every now and then, but basically, the legend says that Edward the Seventh had a gigantic sexual appetite. And in fact, I think you can be careful how you Google this, I suppose, or DuckDuckGo this. But yeah, I think there is a sex chair that he had made for himself. He was a big man, and even looking at the chair, like, I've looked at it and just gone, I literally don't know where bodies would be on that device. I don't understand. So the guy was kind of apparently kind of super freaky. But anyway, this German diplomat was, supposed to arrange for some ladies to attend this function, and he was supposed to be a part of this thing as his diplomatic duties, and we call it now the mirror test, right? He says, "I refuse to see a pimp in the mirror in the morning when I shave." So he made a choice based on his value of integrity that he would not do this. That's a given. Right? Things like integrity and honesty, like, you're supposed to be honest. You're supposed to have integrity. Those are things that we're just going to say are givens. We're talking about, in this episode, things that are a little more specific, because you have to get those values lined up in the order in which you value them. And so I've got another picture here, and this is kind of another sexual story, forgive me. But don't ask me, Mike. It's just happening. But
and you're wearing your Mr. Rogers sweater while you're telling these stories.
Stop calling it that. What's wrong with you?
That's just, yeah, that's cognitive dissonance right there.
No comment. So yeah, I don't know why I'm talking about weird sexual stuff, and yet I'm offended by you calling me Mr. Rogers. But anyway, the point here is, I've got this picture on the screen that we learned about from our good buddy Chris Hunsicker, whose book we have featured on the podcast. But it's the Nittany Lion logo with a tear. The Nittany Lion is crying, and some fan created this during the whole sex abuse scandal. And Chris made the point that you have to decide what you value more, right? And within the Penn State organization, loyalty was a huge value, and loyalty is really important. But if loyalty is valued more than, call it what you will, right? Protection of children, basic decency. I don't know what you want to call it. You have a problem, and the organization suffers. So this is an exercise that I've done based on the wonderful coaching book, Coactive Coaching, that I'm stealing liberally from, harvesting, as we were taught to say early on by our buddy David Kohler. But these are some questions that I've asked groups and I've asked individuals that will get you toward defining what exactly those values are and which ones you value more than others. So I've got some questions to share. I think you were going to say something, though, so I'll shut up for a minute.
No, you're on the right track. The idea that this should be based upon what you aspire to, but it's also probably already occurring. And that,
right.
that you who you are and how you go about leading your organization and building a business is you've already set the tone. We're just trying to get you to discover those things so that you can enunciate them more clearly and be more intentional about driving towards them.
There it is. I would say the vision I'm aspiring to, but even if I'm not aware of it, I'm already the DNA that I am. And so the
Mhm.
values, me defining that lets me know like, okay, this is when we're at our best, we're doing these things because this is authentically us, and that's the authentically us person or team that I want to get across the finish line on this vision.
Mhm.
So anyway, I'll share these quickly. I think this will be a pretty short episode, but it takes much longer when you do it with a group, right? You give them time to think about this, and I give everybody a big stack of flip charts when I do this. And it's basically I'm asking them to put down a word or a phrase on each sticky note, one word or one phrase per sticky note, and then move on to the next note. And these are the questions I ask. The first is describe a peak moment for the team, right, or for the individual. But I've got the slide set up for a team. So a peak moment for the team. What was happening in that moment? Who was there? What was going on? What were the circumstances? And what made it so fulfilling? Right? Like think about that. And then on a sticky note, write down each of the values that were being honored in that moment.
Mhm.
On a sticky note, write down words that elaborate on that value. And it could be something that means something to you. Like if you're a Dave Ramsey fan, one of the things he values is gazelle intensity. That's really important to paying off your debt in the Dave Ramsey system. So, you might write down gazelle. It means nothing to anybody else in the room, perhaps, but it means something to you or it means something to your team. That's what we're getting at. Try to write down those things. What was it about that peak moment that was a value that you honored that made it a peak? So that's one of the prompts that I give.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I do a similar exercise, uh,
Yes.
and I break it up just to give them the chance as a group to kind of discover the value. So the way I do it, and I harvested this from the Simon Sinek's book, Start with Why,
Mhm.
which Start with Why is just a workshop on uncovering vision and values.
Yep.
It's some people read his first book, went out and started doing workshops based on the book, showed it to Simon, and Simon went, "This is great. I'll put you guys as co-authors. We'll have our second book." So it's basically just the workshop instructions. So it's absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
So the exercise is, you got team members, managers in a room, and you just ask them to pause for a moment and make a note of when. Tell me about a time that you felt most proud of this organization. Tell me
Yep.
about a time when you felt most proud to work here. And yeah, people make notes right now, and have them make notes so that they can't, change their story, after we start
Right.
scoring them.
What he said. I'm really proud of that
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. What he said, that was a good one right there. That was mine too. No, no. What'd you write? Right. And so, same thing. We capture the stories, right? Tell the stories, which that exercise in itself is just so moving.
Yep.
If you ever want to just feel good about where you are and what you're building and where you work, just ask people to go around and share a moment when they were most proud of what we do or what we've
Yep.
done here. And
Yep.
and yeah, by the end, everybody's like, "Oh, this is so cool to be here. We're
Yeah.
great." And so now I've got all these stories, and then I asked the group to do the analysis and go, "Okay, what are the themes that run through these stories?"
So I do the same thing. I ask a few more prompts before I do that, and before I have them put the sticky notes up on the wall,
Mhm.
I sort of have them keep it to themselves. And actually, why don't I just share these other questions quickly? These other prompts. Describe a frustrating moment for the team.
Mhm.
Your emotions really went to the negative side, and you were angry, you were frustrated, you were upset. What was going on? What were the circumstances? What did it feel like? And so, of course, what you want them to put down are not those negative things, but what was the value that was on the other side of that frustration that you were, that was being unfulfilled that you wish you could get to? What are those values, those words or phrases? So you put those down on sticky notes. Must haves. This is another prompt. Of course, we all want to get paid. Of course, we all want to go home and, spend time with our families or whatever those things are, paying our bills. But what are the values that we must honor or just we feel like part of us dies? And I'll give you an example of how this showed up at one of my locations. I had a gentleman who was a rising star. He had gone from a frontline employee into management and was really climbing the ranks, and just suddenly his engagement level just completely dropped. And we did an exercise similar to what we're talking about here. And what came up for him was, I just want to have fun. I just want to have fun. I don't care about the money. I just want to have fun. And if I don't have fun, I die. And he literally left the organization because the way the culture was set up at the time, he couldn't do it. And he really meant it, by the way. I started thinking about my time with him, and he had, on his way to see a customer, had grabbed my rear end and pinched it in public as he walked past. Have you noticed the theme of sexual deviancy today? Anyway, but the point is, this guy had a must have. He wanted to have fun at work. And if he couldn't have fun, he was literally out. He couldn't even work there anymore. So there's an example of that one. I got a couple more here. What are we obsessive about? What do new hires say about us? What do our vendors, people that come in off the street, say about us? Like, you guys always do that. Or, man, I never, noticed this at other organizations, but here, this is a thing you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll
So
say things like,
that's it.
"I love coming here because." Right.
Right.
You
Right.
got you guys are always friendly. You guys are always you always move quickly to help me get the thing I need to get done. Right. They have a reason. The you talked about the new hires. Keep in mind there are two orientations.
That's right.
There's the official orientation where we're all about integrity and trust and family, and and that's who we are, and
That's great.
yeah, that's awesome, and here's your sign in, here's your name badge. And so they get the official orientation, then they go out into the workplace and they meet a veteran team member, and then somehow the conversation comes up of, all right, so what's it really like to work here?
Right.
The team member will not share a list. Well, there's 3 bullet points here. They're disinterested, disorganized, and demotivated. Like
Yep.
that. What they will share is a story that illustrates to them what the organization's values are.
Yeah.
And so the story will be like, let me tell you about this time, right? We had this guy, he'd only worked here for 3 weeks. He got sick. He had to have some treatments, and they didn't have to, but they paid him while he was away from work, and the owner even went and visited him while he was in the hospital.
Yep. Yep. That's it.
Wow. Right. Okay. So they do value employees. They do value and care for people, and it's more about the job and more. And I care about you as a person, not just as a worker. And so the stories are going to get told with your exercise. Yeah, can we bring those stories forward, and then can we be more intentional about creating more of those stories?
Yeah, and you made the great point that, now we need to put them into some themes here, right? We've got all these different ideas from the room. Let's get the sticky notes on the wall and see if some of these sticky notes kind of go together. There's a lot of stories about fun, for instance, or a lot of stories about, I'll pick something else. Getting a chance to work as a team or getting a chance to overcome an obstacle. Whatever the things are that you happen to value. And I think both of us have used a similar exercise at this point where we give everybody 3 stickers, 3 little dots, and we say you can spend your 3 dots any way you want, but vote on which of these values you feel most passionate about. And you start to see dots coalesce around a certain, 3 or 4, maybe 5 ideas. I keep it shorter. I try to make it as short as possible so that the list is nice and tight. But this is a chance for you to go through the exercise and find out where the energy in the room is around some of these values. What do we really value when you have them on the wall like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the prioritization, right? Which way is the majority leaning, and yeah, a number of different ways to ascertain that, right? You can
Yeah.
do secret votes, you can do stickers, you can have little dots. Yeah, so all this stuff is on the flip chart. So it's a very visual exercise,
Yeah.
and now we're into the prioritization piece of it.
Yeah. Now, once you've got your list, let's just fast forward and talk about, again, the payoff here. We already knew as an organization that when you had to make a choice, you would try to do it lawfully, ethically, with integrity. You were going to be honest. Like that's not the stuff that makes it onto this chart, right? The stuff on this chart are these things that are really peculiar to your DNA. This is really what we're about. This is authentically who we are as a team, as an individual. And so now this is something we should be bringing before ourselves on a regular basis, much like the vision, right? When we make a decision, is this getting us toward our vision or away from our vision? This action we're about to take, does it honor our values or does it not honor our values?
Mm-hmm.
These are the kinds of conversations that you can start having with yourself, with your management team on a regular basis. It's something that you could have departmental meetings or team meetings where you start saying, bring a story of where you saw somebody else in the company honor the value of curiosity, the value of learning, the value, whatever it is that you've decided are your values. You can start making this something that we're much more conscious of. It's no longer this thing deep inside us that is who we really are. It's like we know who we are, we know what we're about, and it helps us with those why motivations.
Oh yeah, yeah. One of the preferred things that come out of this as far as a deliverable is I encourage them to, all right, let's list the values, right? And there are bullet points, and nobody remembers bullet points. So here's the value, and then here's the story, right? We take one of the stories that we gathered and we put it under that value. So here's a
Yes.
story that illustrates us living this to its fullest.
Yep.
And so now I've got the value, I've got a story that illustrates it, and then that now I've built the new employee orientation. Uh,
Yeah.
and now I've built the employee review.
A
Uh,
much stronger orientation and a much stronger review, right?
oh yeah, yeah.
Spelled out.
So yeah, the arbiter of alignment is the vision and the values.
Love it.
And you can do that down to a very specific individual situation.
Yeah.
As the customer is leaving, you can ask the team member, all right, so what you did with that customer, does that move us closer to living our values or take us farther away?
Yep.
Probably farther away. I probably should have told them the thing,
Right.
yeah. All right, what do we need to do? So now it's not me being the bad guy, right? Saying, hey, you're not like us, you don't fit in here, right? All that vague terminology that's so subjective.
Yeah.
We can just say, right, does that move us closer to our vision, or does that what you did take us farther away? And
We,
most people can make that determination and make that assessment.
well, we talked a little bit about Porsche in the last episode, and I think we should probably give them their due. They have been good about really defining their values and even refining that list in recent history internally.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a expression you'll hear that is very Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
And they know exactly what they mean by that. That's not vague at all because they have defined what is Porsche and what's not very Porsche. I was in a meeting early on with them where something had gone wrong, and that was not very Porsche, and they knew exactly what they meant. It wasn't a big deal to me. It was a really big deal to everybody else in the room because they were a part of that culture already, and said that we're not aligned to this on this one part. So it can be a really powerful thing that helps an
Mm-hmm.
organization really excel. So
Oh
anyway,
yeah.
we've talked about why quite a bit. We've talked about the North Star. We've got more goodies coming as we get a little further down the frame of some of the ideas from Seth Godin on a culture of continual improvement. Anything else before we wrap up, Mike?
No, I love the idea, right? You can simply ask yourself, right? You can put the word esque after your business name,
Yeah.
right? Was that very Porsche-esque, and all the way down to an individual behavior, the way you greeted that customer.
Yep.
Was that Porsche-esque, right? The way you handled that phone call, right? And then what we're asking you to do here is define what the esque actually means.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, we all kind of have an idea. Can we be more clear about it? And so all the things that we talked about bring you that clarity, so that we can be even more intentional about it.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said. It is the arbiter, as you pointed out. So this is good stuff.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of amazing announcers, yes, continually improving. His values never waver. He always makes fun of us.
He values that.
Yeah, he values that highly. Take it away, Mr. Wolf.
And there you have it, another session of contemporaneous extemporizing from Mark and Mike. I know it's redundant, but consider who we're talking about. As always, feel free to share the ideas you heard here. No rights are reserved, no permissions needed. Thanks. See you next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.